Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of On the Wrong Lead Live. And man, we had to stretch to figure out what we're going to cover this weekend. We talked about this last week, when we were talking about Pegasus. All the great racing that was coming up this weekend. We were going to have stakes racing at 3 different tracks, all these derby preps. And then Mother Nature decided to have another opinion. And, I'm going to bring in our guest first because there's a rumor that whenever weather is involved, Matthew Desantis is not far behind. And Matthew, normally, like full behind the curtain, normally I'm texting you day before, 2 days before, hey, what you doing Thursday? Can you hop on, right? I got you a whole week early being like, we got good stuff coming up. Caleb's going to be missing. I got on the bike. I got you in. I was like, hey, come on here and vamp with us, right? Because you understand what that means.
I do.
And then like 4 days out, they're canceling everywhere. So I don't know what the heck is going on.
Listen, shout out to your co-host, Andrew Champagne, who always gives me a hard time about weather in the summer at Saratoga. And I'm somebody, I don't worry about things till things happen. And I worry about things. But Andrew just stays up nights looking at radars and Doppler forecasts. And especially during Saratoga, it's all he can do. He consults with shaman and all sorts of, psychics to figure out what the weather is going to be 6 Saturdays from now. And whether or not we might be off turf at some point. I don't, during the winter, I really don't worry about that because at Aqueduct, it's the tarp and the main track. So there's no need to worry about the turf conditions. So my guard is down a little bit more, but yeah, it's just been a doozy of a winter. And I knew we were in for it when Oaklawn, basically said a few days out, we're not going to cancel. Then NYRA kind of pulled the trigger on Wednesday through Friday. And then just today announced that they're not going to be running Saturday, Sunday. The fact Turfway was so proactive about canceling. And heck, they're even getting snow in Florida right now. And Tampa Bay is supposed to be, actually pretty cold this weekend. So it's crazy, but I'm thrilled to be here talking to you and your compatriots about 2 places where it is not going to be cold, Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita.
Yeah, and then we're going to bring in the king of Gulfstream, Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, I don't know what happened last week, but I'm pretty sure at some point you shouted the words, I love Gulfstream Park.
No, but I did shout the words, I am the king of Florida.
Oh.
Yes, it was one of those weeks last week where your wallet's lighter than when you started, but you kind of have a moral victory. I think in the 6 races at Gulfstream, I called at least 4 heavy favorites fake, all of whom lost. Unfortunately, I didn't have Destined Oro was the one that really got me in that sequence. 15-1 Cox runner, but nevertheless, that maybe I'm downgraded to like the Prince of Florida, but we're back this week.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it was a tough weekend last week, and one guy who I'm surprised didn't have the winner, because I remember there was a time, Mark.
There was a time
where you were a big Skippy Longstockings guy.
There was a time. It was just like 2 or 3 years ago when he was actually, you're like, oh, he may be the next coming. He may actually be a decent horse. And then the last 2 years happened where he was Skippy. And yeah, I mean, good on him for finally getting himself a G1. The race, I would say the entire racing weekend was one of those ones where you're like, oh, this feels like it's, there's a lot of like up and coming horses, a lot of interesting players, a lot of connections that I'm really horses that I'm interested in, backing now that may be good in the summer, maybe things I can chase longer term. And it kind of all didn't turn out the way I thought it would. It was, a tough card. I think tough card for all of us. I don't know how Matt did, but I know the rest of us had a tough time with it. And, it seems like Pegasus is this every year. You look at the card and you go, wow, the big fields and it's super competitive and lots of fun. And then it just does the Gulfstream thing. So it happens.
Yeah, it was a tough weekend for sure. I mean, I did okay. I had a couple of those Mott runners that I liked. And that helped. I definitely kind of was all in on the Knightsbridge train over Life and Times. at places like that. My only trouble was I didn't go deep enough on Grand Motion over the weekend as well. I loved one strike. Score maybe needed a race. What kills me is that Destino Doro. I really love that race the horse came out of and won. And I just like the horse that actually finished second that day a little bit more on the outside. But that was the key race. I love that race coming out of there. So, it was one of those things, Caleb. Like you, I had a lot of the right opinions and just kind of was floating around the right horses and just couldn't quite ever kind of put a string of 3-4 races together where I could get them. But I could hit some one-offs here and there that kind of kept me afloat. So, but it was a fun day of racing though. And I have to say being down there, it was saw our mutual friend Barry Spears down there and a lot of other, good folks, and great day of racing. And the one thing I do appreciate about Florida is the vibes. It's just the vibes. It's just everybody's chill. And it's like, and I looked at it like somebody I was with, and I just said, if this was Saratoga, it would be a madhouse and there would be bros everywhere and it would just be chaos. And in Florida, it's just like some guy in his Chihuahua just like walking around and they're like, let's fire away. I'm like, yeah, let's fire away. Let's get Skippy going. Like, why not? So it was a fun day, and we'll do it again this weekend because they're about the only ones running.
Yeah, what did I guess high level? What did you guys think of the card last weekend? Because it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of a slight showcase, right, for the older horses we got left. Now, granted, not everybody ships over to Gulfstream. The Pegasus, the purse getting cut a little bit, I think has definitely sent more horses to kind of just prep to go overseas, to Dubai and to Saudi and maybe skip Pegasus. But, we saw, was it a pair of 7-year-olds? And was there a third 7-year-old that made it the
Serrano was 7 too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Try.
So, I mean, is that where we're at now, that the 7-year-olds are taking over, the boomer horses, or do you think that we just haven't seen the good older dirt horses show up yet?
I don't know. I think that, I'd be interested to hear what Mark and Caleb think of this, because I haven't talked to you guys in a minute, but it's, I think that it speaks to just where we are as an industry, when a lot of horses get retired early. And I actually think a horse that was ultimately scratched out of the Pegasus is the prime example, which is Matticat Road. Matticat Road was never meant to go to the Pegasus World Cup, but Matticat Road got upgraded when all of his stablemates got retired. And when Barnes got retired and Goal Oriented got retired and Cornucopian kind of flipped in the paddock and they didn't want to have kind of no races under his belt before coming to the Pegasus. Guess who gets promoted to the A team all of a sudden? Is Matticat Road, who's only ever beaten maidens. And so that's kind of where we're at. And a lot of untested horses, Disco Time and Japan Street were working their way back. Poster, you could argue, is the same thing, lesser heralded, but that's just kind of where we are. But listen, the big boys are Sovereignty by the big three from last year, and they're still the big three for the 4-year-old crop at least. And, I think we also have to acknowledge that, the best dirt horse in the world might very well be Japanese and is going to be running in the Middle East. And that's just kind of where things are right now for North American dirt racing. And I get excited about the sprint division and things like that. And I think we have a lot of good milers like a Knightsbridge, and that's going to be fun to see if he can stretch out. But I don't know. Mark, Caleb, interested in your thoughts.
Caleb, you gonna hop in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I'll be the first one to sort of, poke at the industry, because Lord knows we do enough, worse than we could here. But I think we were kind of spoiled last year with what I would say is the best 4-year-old crop of older dirt horses that we've had in a while. I mean, we had the Sierra Leone Fierceness grudge match a couple of times. You had horses like, White Abario, who are still knocking heads. Forever Young ships in. You have the 3-year-old crop, which looks now 4-year-old, but at the time, 3-year-old crop, who was promising with Sovereignty and Baeza. So I do kind of think last year we were a little bit spoiled. Some of those 3-year-olds had an early retirement, which is kind of a bummer. Some of the last year 4-year-olds, Fierceness and Sierra Leone, have obviously gone off as well. So I think we're just in a bit of a lull right now, where we don't know for sure who are some of those 3-year-olds that maybe we haven't seen since the summer that could come back as really good 4-year-olds? Who are some of the up and coming 3-year-olds now that, are really going to be interesting to watch on the Derby Trail and see how they progress? Who are some of those horses, like Knightsbridge, who, aren't super heavily raced, but still seem to have a ton of upside. So it's a bit of a lull. And I think the Pegasus just kind of hit the spot in the calendar where a lot of horses, retire, that don't necessarily want to go to the Middle East and kind of take that route. So, I mean, it's the kind of grade 1 that if Skippy was ever going to get one, it was probably this one. But the card as a whole, I thought was great. I mean, it was super competitive, a lot of good racing, very deep fields. I mean, 12, 13 horse fields in almost every race. So all in all, I thought it was a great weekend of racing. Maybe a little light on star power, but all things considered, a really good card.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton to add there. I think again, it's part of where we are as an industry right now. It's also part of where we are in the cycle. In all honesty, the Pegasus, even when it did have the crazy huge purse and you have to like buy a stake and bring your horse in thing where they were, with the gigantic purse when they first created it, it never really was that A-tier race. People, the bigger money was to ship to the Middle East or to run on the American races, and the money's not to be made in the track. We all know that. There's very little incentive to run a horse as an older horse these days when there's just, such an outsized payout if the horse is really good at stud. So I think it's where we're at as an industry. It's where we're at as an older division. And that's where the sport is. And until somebody starts making, $25 million G1s, you're not going to see that incentive to keep those horses in training as older horses. And so, it's just, it's economics. It is what it is. That's how the game is. And at the end of the day, it's a game of money. And it's hard. And again, I'm interested to see where this 3-year-old crop goes. I don't really know who the major players are. Obviously, we had a major defection today on the day. I think Stephen Fox asking, is Ted Nafi ever run again? My guess is probably not. I think he's probably done enough that he probably gets a stud deal, right? And that's part of the problem that we're sort of talking about.
It's funny because I forgot who it was who mentioned this. I heard it from somewhere, so this isn't an original idea, but someone said basically if White Abario was by Tappet and not race day, we would have never seen him the last 3 years.
Right.
Or if he was intact, that would help too.
Well, yeah.
Come on, Mark. I mean, there's there's a few that are not intact that are standing. In terms of a horse like who I love, Jack Christopher. Jack Christopher had the same issues that White Abario did. Was a jankety mover, couldn't move, got scratched from the Breeders' Cup. Listen, there's a couple hundred Jack Christophers that are selling as yearlings and 2-year-olds. I mean, so
Wait, what do you mean?
Listen, I agree with your point, Josh. You're absolutely right.
Is he? I thought he was gelded, wasn't he?
He's a horse.
Is he?
Okay.
Is he? Okay, cool.
I
thought he was
like,
gelded.
How did I miss that? Like, I was like, when did they cut that off? Like. But yeah, I mean, he's going to end up somewhere, popping out 5K, 7,500, K babies, But if it was a Tappet, but I think it's to your point, Mark. It's just
it's the Sierra Leone problem. I mean, nobody wants to admit it, but he's another one that does not have the most enticing pedigree and is not the prettiest of movers. So there's a few of those there that have stud deals. So you're like, that's a little bit of a head scratcher, but yeah.
Anyways, I know everybody who is currently watching, is definitely here to listen to our takes on the breeding industry and the the current state of horse racing. But in reality, right, we're all degenerates. There's like 3 tracks running this weekend. Let's talk about a couple of them. A couple of things real quick. Obviously, if you guys, I do see chat. So if you guys got comments, go ahead, hit us up in chat. I already see Penn State Scott. I mean, he starts every single stream out with this question.
He keeps us honest, though. I appreciate it.
He does.
What's in the
He's
glass?
the man.
And Matthew, I do have to say, in honor of you, he's half right. He says a single barrel pick, but it's not a single barrel pick of bourbon. It's a single barrel pick of El Tesoro tequila.
Oh, very
So
nice.
it's a nice little single barrel reposado. I figured, in honor of you, I would be sipping some tequila to start, and then I would switch over to bourbon. So, Mark, he says that you got a cab.
I had a cab earlier, but
Okay.
I've moved over to water now. I figured I would, Josh complains that as I progressively get drunker as the stream goes on, I get louder. So I'm going to try to rectify that and just drink some water to offset it.
He said that he was watching back some of our streams, and he's like, I'm really loud, and I was like, well, you're always quiet when we start, so maybe you're just getting drunker as we go. I don't know.
See, Mark,
Caleb?
I just start loud, and then I can stay at that volume all day.
Okay.
Caleb, I see cough syrup down for you.
Close. It does have alcohol in it, but no, this is a Knob Creek single barrel.
Nice.
Ooh.
And then Matthew Patron, you got anything there? Or are you,
I'm in a dry. I think I might be in a dry county, folks. I am.
God bless you.
I'm sipping on Diet Mountain Dew right now because that's how I roll at 9:19 at night on a Thursday.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking about the Sunset Pick 6, which is, just another one of the ridiculous names that they come up with these bets. But I mean, look, I've been, I bang the drum for these kind of bets all the time, right? 15% takeout, $1 minimum. It's the last 3 at GP and Santa Anita. So, I'm a huge fan of the high base pick 3s, but we got a couple of interesting races in here, and this is probably gonna be a little too rich for my blood, but maybe you guys will be able to help me cross a couple horses out. Maybe we get a ticket here, but we are gonna start here. Race 10 at Gulfstream Park, the Grade 3 Forward Gal Stakes, 7 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. We got Oaks points up for grabs here. 20 points for the winner, 10, 6, 4, and 2, $175,000. Matt, as our guest, I'll let you kind of walk us through this race first. Where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, it's an interesting race because it's an Oaks prep race, like you mentioned, but it's only 7 furlongs. And so it's an opportunity sometimes for these sprinters to maybe get their foot in the door in the Oaks conversation. We saw this a few weeks ago at the Santa Ynez out in California as well, same sort of distance. This race has a lot of speed in it. And Josh, I know you're going to be tempted with the 3 cherries and the E8s and the whole 9 yards. I know it. You're salivating at this race, but there is so much speed that and 7 furlongs is such a tricky pace that I'm going to be pulling a little bit of a Chase Sessoms and saying, this is a sprint race that's going to have a pace meltdown. And I ultimately went to the number 5, Sneaky Good. I really like this horse for Brad Cox. This is a horse that's a perfect 2 for 2 between a debut victory at Keeneland and then winning that Sandpiper last time out of Tampa Bay Downs going 6. It's a $450,000 into mischief. And I just think what impressed me so much about the 5 is how she won her first 2 races. Won her first race in gate to wire fashion, came back and basically was sitting towards the back of the field and passed everyone easily at a track like Tampa Bay Downs, which is not easy to do on the main track going 6 furlongs. So I know the speed figures need to get a little faster. No two ways about that. But I thought that this was a young horse with upside who is going to get the right sort of trip, because I think there's a lot of horses in this race that are good at 6, maybe 6.5, but not 7. And with the pace scenario, I just thought she was really interesting coming from off the pace. So I'll just start there. A horse that I really liked is my top selection, but I do think that this is a race where from a horizontal standpoint, I'm just going to be trying to beat the number 4, Mythical. I just do not like this horse much at all in this particular spot. And I think particularly the 7 furlong, she's very beatable. So I'm going to be using the 6, On Time Girl. I'm going to be using the 8, Imperatrice, but my top selection is the number 5, Sneaky Good.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm not a fan of this 4 whatsoever either. I don't know. Maybe I'm pulling a Caleb Knight here and just getting a little too cute trying to beat these favorites. But I do like your 8, Imperatrice. I do think that this is one with the outside draw that is actually cutting back in distance here. Now, granted, it's still a 1 turn. 1 turn from Gulfstream, 1 turn mile to 7 furlongs. But I think that this might be a horse that's going to want to maybe track a little bit more here, especially with that outside draw. Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez, I mean, they last I checked, I want to say that that's like a 25% 25% connection when these two guys are when Johnny V is riding for Todd Pletcher here at Gulfstream. I like the third time out for this horse. Right, has improved in the second start, and Beyer really liked that race. Race looks fine on time form. So yeah, I really like the 8. But I also like the 2 Tessellate inside drawn here for Saffie Joseph Jr. I think if the 4 and the 6 do end up going kind of nuclear there on the front end, the 2 has shown in the last 2 races to be a horse that absolutely is cool, just stalking, letting people up front do what they want to do, and closing into what would look like red fractions here on Timeform US. Last 2 races closing into red fractions. So, I kind of agree with you with the pace scenario. I do think that this is probably going to be more of a tracker's race. So I do think the 2 is probably the horse I want from here. Coming in here, obviously, with 2 straight wins off of good form. And, I mean, Saffie Joseph, we paid the price leaving him off of tickets last weekend. Maybe we're going to end up overpaying this weekend. But I'm going to definitely use the Saffie here. So I just got the 2 and 8 in this spot. Caleb, where did you land?
Yeah, I think we all see it somewhat similar, but I think we ended up on a few different top picks in here. Similar to both of y'all, I'm out on Mythical number 4. I think she's a super cool filly, but she strikes me as a super precocious 2-year-old specialist type. I just don't think that she's going to be necessarily as good as some of these in here, especially with having some company up on the front end and going a pretty demanding 7 furlongs. So I'm out on Mythical. And then the 6 doesn't do much for me as a short price with IRAD on speed. I agree with you on the 2, Josh. That's my second pick, Tessellate. I think that's a horse that hasn't run a tremendously quick race, but does like to win. The only 2 losses, come going a mile, which is a bit too far, and then, sit in the slop. So I do respect Tessellate, who has some versatility in here. But my top pick is actually a horse that probably does need to run a little bit faster, but that's the number 7 Holland Drive. Kind of going back to Matt's point earlier, I mean, I do think this race probably comes apart. And I wanted a closer, and she's one of the few true closers in the race I could find. I mean, there's a couple of horses that maybe sat second and closed, but there weren't many that, truly, produced their best efforts when taken back and kind of made one big run. She had a great effort last time out to close into a swift pace, kind of getting up by a pretty comfortable 2 lengths. And really, I mean, she's 2 for 2 over a fast track with her only bad performance coming in Laurel in the slop, going 6 furlongs. To me, she moves like a horse that is going to relish the extra furlong that she gets here today, going 7. Should get a good pace in front of her and goes out for a hot barn. And, Will Walden, who's clicking at about 25% so far at Gulfstream this meet. So for me, I'm going to kind of, take the pace angle, concede that she needs to run a little bit faster, but you're getting a big price on a horse that I think is, in with a decent shot here. So I like the 2 and the 7.
Stephen Fox saying Caleb learnt nothing from me last week. So
that's a compliment.
Marco saying Caleb is not well. Oh no.
I will say, I do want to say, I just actually finished recording Capping the Card, where I went through all these races for NYRA Bets YouTube. And Caleb, I will say the 7 was my value play in this race. This is a horse that is the half sibling to Hot Rod Charlie and Matoli. This horse has a lot of pedigree behind it. So I'm a huge fan of Will Walden and how he spots his horses and conditions them. So I think this horse 15-1. I don't know if you get 15-1, but because I think people might see this race the same as we all do. But man, I agree with you. This horse is a closer in a race that doesn't have many.
Mark?
Yeah, I'll not a ton to add. I think we're all gonna probably put Mythical right in the winner circle because I'm also against Mythical. Shockingly. I thought, both On Time Girl, the 6, and the Imperatrice were both super interesting players here. The one horse we haven't talked about that I thought was a little interesting is the one horse, Music Burst. There's an argument. I mean, if your take is that the 2-back effort where she made the lead is what she needs to do, then you just toss her here, right? But if there's a case to be made that she needed the first race and she didn't, and she was kind of slowly getting there in the last out effort at Turfway on probably what isn't her best surface, she's a horse that isn't a ton slower than some of the others in here. And if you're making a case for some of the others in here that are shorter prices, she can step forward here and be a player. Like Louis says, getting up for George Arnold. And a horse that I think is a little interesting. Now she's got to figure out how to pass other horses, but she did a little bit of that in her last race, but she needs to get a little better at it. Needs to definitely take a step forward here. But if you're going to give me 10-1 on those kind of connections, those kind of angles, sure, I'm interested in it. So.
John Rice pointing out that last week in the stakes races, horses that trained at Palm Meadows were dangerous. So
you know who trained at Palm Meadows?
Who's that?
The one who I just mentioned.
I think that's why he brought it up. He likes the 5 and the 1 in this race. So
yep.
Anything else on this race, Matt? Did you have anything else you want to talk about here?
No, I'll just say I actually had the chance to go out to Palm Meadows on Monday of this past week. It was my first time I ever saw that facility. It's absolutely beautiful out there. 1,700 horses. It's massive facility, and they were very proud of the fact that they won. The horses that trained there won 8 of the 10 handicapper stakes races on Pegasus Day.
Wow.
So they
were
they were very proud of that. So it was very cool.
Yeah, I think I saw pictures of that, Matthew. Where were those pictures posted?
Those pictures were posted on NYRA Bets.
Shameless.
Let's move on to race 11. We got the Swedish Chant Stakes here, going a mile and 16th on the turf for 3-year-old fillies. Another 175K race here. Mark, I'll let you go on and wax poetic here first. Where did you land?
Yeah, I mean, nothing super creative here from me. Is a complete opposition to the previous race. There is not a ton of pace in this race, and I really think this race sets up for somebody who's going to be on the front end or sort of really involved early. And I had a real hard time poking a lot of holes in the favorite, Sister Tran, who has won 4 in a row. The Brian Lynch barn is absolutely firing, 33% on the meet, and he's 47%, which is an absolutely absurd number when he's putting Mario Gutierrez up. I think this is the horse that's just kind of much to the beat, does have a win across the surface, at Gulfstream, going this trip. So I think that the 8 is going to be a real tough one to beat in here. I don't want to get super creative. I think there are places I want to spread in this sequence, and this is just not one of those races. The other horse I think that's usable in here is the 10 horse Aggressive Lime. I very much needed Aggressive Lime in that Jessamine last fall. So I have a little bit of spite against this horse because that cost me quite a bit of money. But I think I would kind of A/B these two. Use Sister Tran as my A, Aggressive Lime as my B, and I don't really think you need to go a ton deeper in this race to kind of find with your winner. As much as I want to try to find a price, I think it's pretty logical.
Caleb, how much money are you gonna have through this 8?
Pretty much all of it, actually.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Caleb, don't do this to me, Caleb.
I know. Normally that's a real good little lead in for me, but I can't help but agree with everything Mark said. There's not much speed in the race. Sister Troen probably works out the best trip. She's also the best horse for a very hot barn. A jockey who probably all of his wins this meet have come for this barn. Maybe a slight step up in class, maybe, but not a tough field here, I don't think. I just couldn't really find a way around her. If I'm going to have a B, it might be a horse like the One Sweet Girl, who I do think is kind of sneaky and going out for some really hot, but perhaps underrated connections also having a banner year at Gulfstream. The problem is she needs a pace setup, and I just don't think she's going to get it. So the way I'll probably structure this, kind of deviating from a handicapping perspective and more into a betting perspective, is I think Sister Troen gets the right trip, and I think she's the best horse. She's kind of my single A. If she loses, it's because there's probably some unforeseen 350 to ones go to the lead with her, in which case I think the 1 is probably the horse I want to come running late. So for me, it's kind of 8 is my A, 1 is my B. I don't know that I need to go a whole lot deeper.
Yeah, I was just given some terrible news by one Matthew Desantis. My top pick is expected to scratch in the 11. Spirit Doll. I was agreeing with you, Mark. I was thinking that this is going to be something that's going to be one on the front end. I thought maybe Edgar Zayas would get this 11 out and try and get this because I mean, being out there in the outside, I think he's only got one way to go, and that would have been forward. Man, if that horse scratches, I think that. I mean, the 8's going to just be out there all by herself, I think. I was with you, Mark, with the 10. I thought the 10 aggressive lime was the other horse in here that I was really interested in. But I don't really have much to add after, I got a little bit of just my plans there. But Matthew, where did you land there?
Yeah, well, I initially, when I handicapped this race, landed on the 11 Spirit Doll, which is why I was acutely aware that as soon as I made that selection, I saw a report that said the horse was going to scratch, and I thought, well, that's just spectacular. Could they have done this before I recorded something? No, but I much like you guys. I mean, this race does feel pretty straightforward at this point. I don't know if you have to really overthink it. I was trying to get creative with Spirit Doll, but really it makes a lot of sense for the 8 and the 10 as the alternative selection. I think Caleb, to your point about singling the 8, I think that is a very sound strategy when you have a dollar pick 6 base, especially depending on what your opinion is on Cornucopia, in Santa Anita later. But even if you don't want to single, I just think going 8-10 is really all you need to do here. There's no sense getting too creative. So I do want to say, I think the other Lynch horse is interesting, at least a little bit. Storm's Wake. The Oscar performance with Louis Saez up. I thought this horse, second back from a little bit of a freshening. The problem is, much like your 1, it's going to need a little bit of a pace setup. And I don't know if that horse is going to get it, but I think it's a talented horse that's pretty good and might be able to move forward a little bit, but it probably feels like more of a horse I'm going to use in my gimmicks in something like a trifecta. So 8-10 for me. So yeah, this race got a lot less interesting with that news.
I did see John Rice talking about the 7, Bert's Naughty Girl. Fired that bullet last time out at Palmettos, which we already just talked about. That 46-4 around the dogs, and he thinks that maybe this is the horse going to show a little bit more speed, especially being drawn inside of the 8. Do you guys give this horse a look at all?
I would have with literally any other jock.
Caleb, Matt?
Not for me. I mean, maybe you can argue the post positions being drawn inside. She didn't like it in her last couple, but when a horse kind of loses her early speed, I'm a little bothered. I don't know if it's tactics or, just kind of maybe drifting out of form a little bit, but not for me, but it's a huge number. I mean, and I think it's not for me because I think the race isn't that deep, but if you do, then she's one I would throw in. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's also been handled by the 8 the last 2 times out. So, I hate when you see a horse being pretty soundly beat, or the last of the 2 back, I should say. When you see a horse being pretty soundly beat by another in this race, it's hard to see a situation. Maybe the horse shows more speed. Maybe they go back to that tack, but I just don't think that's enough. The horse needs to take a pretty big step forward.
All right, let's move on. Race 12 here. The Holy Bull. We're going to be going a mile and 16th on the main track. For 3-year-olds, we got 20 Derby points for the winner in here. Caleb, I'll let you start off here. Where did you kind of land here?
I'm actually so upset you picked me first for this race. This is a hard race for me. If you want to make it simple, I think you can distill it down to the the 5 and the 7. Apparently the 6 is scratched. I'm just realizing they skipped a number. The 5 and the 7. On my first pass, I was off on the 7. I'm like, this is a horse who did no running in debut, and then Todd shipped her to Florida him into Florida to run in a Florida bred maiden. Okay, and then she wins that race, and then he puts him into an optional 75 against 3 other horses. I was initially out, but then I went back and I watched the replay of that optional 75 on January 2nd, and the bump hard at the start is probably putting that extremely mildly. This horse gets clobbered at the break. I mean, comes out, dead sideways, gets driven out towards the far rail, and then the other 3 horses essentially all break smoothly. This horse, spots the field, I don't know, half a dozen lengths, give or take. And the way that he just kind of cruised up alongside them and just ran away and hid at, winning by 5, I thought that was a visually impressive race. The speed figure came back really fast. I don't know how much I trust it, but I'm kind of leaning more on what my eyes told me than what the numbers are telling me here. This horse overcame, legitimate trouble in a 4-horse field, to beat a pretty decent Brad Cox runner in Confessional by half a dozen lengths. Looking at the pedigree, I mean, not this time out of over a mine shaft mare, should run just absolutely all day. Florida is Pletcher's backyard recently. The workouts are coming into this look pretty stout. I wanted to be off on this horse, but I think I'm begrudgingly on, just given what I've seen in the replay. A horse like Cannoneer, the horse to his immediate inside, I think that's probably your other 1B, if nearly as a 1A. I'm a little bothered by just the breaks in this horse's races. It gets to the races in June and then is off until November, after getting beat as a pretty heavy favorite there. And then is off again now until, essentially February. I just kind of wonder, if this is a horse that just maybe needs his races really spaced out. Clearly sold for an absolute fortune. Expectations are high. But for me, I mean, it's an IRAD on a speed horse. Again, that's an angle that I just don't love. Half a sibling to Gervin, so the pedigree's there. The money's probably going to come rolling in. But if I'm taking a short price in here, I think I do prefer the 7 nearly. And I feel disgusting having said all that.
Matt?
I echo a lot of what Caleb said, particularly about nearly. I didn't get back around. I didn't get all the way 360 degrees back around to liking nearly. I kind of stayed at not liking nearly a little bit for the reasons exactly what Caleb pointed out. That horse got beat easily in debut, beat an absolutely nothing field. I mean, you look at who this horse beat in the maiden ranks at Florida. I mean, they've gone on to do absolutely nothing. And then beat a field, which, it was a nice Cox horse that was heavily overbet in Confessional, but I don't know how good the rest of those horses really are. I don't trust that speed figure at all. It was also came with Lasix, and now we're going 2 turns off Lasix against tougher competition. And now you also give me a 9 to 5 morning line. Now we'll see what the price is come post time, but at a short price, I'm just kind of not interested in this horse, while acknowledging that the horse very easily could win this race, especially, like Caleb said, all the connections, etc. I really like Cannoneer, and listen, normally I'm out on IRAD on speed, but I think the 2 things that really impacted this race were, one, butane scratching and missing his flight from California because of the weather, and the other is the fact that the 9 game for it is likely going to scratch as well for Chad Summers. This is a horse that is going to be targeting the Sam F. Davis instead. And there's all your speed. And so IRAD can just be jogging up on the front end in this race. I mean, there's really not going to be any other speed.
It can be.
Look at it. And so I just think Cannoneer makes a lot of sense from a pace standpoint. And I'm a little insulted that Caleb did not mention that he's also the half to my personal favorite horse who finished second all the damn time, Midnight Bourbon. I lost so much money on Midnight Bourbon, RIP. But I love that horse so much. And so I am ready to fall in love with Cannoneer, and I'm ready to get my heart broken with second place finishes with this horse potentially. But that was ultimately my top pick. And I think that if you're looking outside those 2, the 8 is the only place to go. Bravazzo. I think that horse makes a ton of sense for Safi Joseph Jr., Bravaro, I should say. And the fact that Safi's shipping a New York bred down to Florida for this race, I think tells you his opinion of this horse because it's an easier road to the Derby to go through Aqueduct than it is Gulfstream Park.
Mark.
Yeah, can the 5 or the 7 win? Sure. I think Matt makes an argument for the 8. Okay, cool, whatever, fine. I felt like I needed to go a different direction in this race, and I ended up on the 4 Global Aviator as my top choice in here. I think if you watch back that last effort, that the debut effort at Gulfstream in the end of November, I thought. I thought that was a pretty darn good effort, given the fact that the horse had an absolutely, well, I shouldn't say brutal trip. Horse just didn't break. And I'm sure Crichton has sorted that out, in some of the work since then. I think that 2 back, work really kind of jumps off the page, second of 44, going 59-2 across this Gulfstream surface. Question I think on the 4 Global Aviator is can this horse go this trip? I don't know if this horse necessarily stretches out or wants to be stretched out, but curling over Quality Road to me says that this shouldn't be a problem. So I think that 85 Fig, the horse earned a debut, is probably a little bit light and has every right to step forward a little bit here. And I thought Global Aviator was super interesting. Is it my top choice? Probably not. A Cannoneer, a Nearly, one of those two, sure, I guess they're supposed to win. But I wanted to go someplace else in here in a race that there was nobody I loved in here. And I hate taking a short price when I don't really love somebody. So I end up on Global Aviator.
I do really like Global Aviator, Mark, just for the record. That's probably my second pick in here. So I'm
cool.
with you on that horse. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. You got to remember one thing, though, Mark. You know what horse Caleb absolutely loved?
Global
Campaign.
I did love Global Campaign.
Is the most Caleb horse.
God, I
win,
did.
And then as soon as everyone gets on, just would throw a dud. Oh my goodness gracious! Global Campaign. I agree with you guys. I do think I'm out on the 7, so I don't agree with Caleb. I'm actually kind of disgusted that Caleb landed on the 7. I think I'm more with where Matt kind of landed. Of the short prices, I think the 5 is got your best shot, even if it is IRAD on speed. Last time all he had to do was just hold on, and the horse did all the work. But,
there it is. There it is.
Andrew Champagne said that he made a future wager in the first Derby pool, I believe, on Cannoneer. So he was very excited to talk about that horse. I took the alternate that you guys had talked about here, Bravaro. That's going to be my top pick in here. I like the fact that this is the horse that took a step forward on the stretch out, won the State Bred Stakes. I agree with you, Matt. This horse could have just sat back and ran in the withers and probably had much, much easier time. But Safi decides, hey, I'm going to ship this horse to my backyard, have it run here at Gulfstream. So I really like that move here. So Bravaro is actually my top pick in this spot. I don't know if I really like him going any further than this. I think that might be the question here. But I think we saw the 1 turn mile be all right. So I think the extra little bit of stretch out should be fine. And that's what always makes these races, I think, tough for me. Is you get a lot of these horses, a lot of these sprinters that are stretching out for the first time, and it's like, all right, are these horses actually, going to take to it? Are they not? What's going to kind of happen here? So while I like the 5, I actually went to the inside horse, Incredible, for Riley Mott here, and the one thing that we can say is that this horse has run this trip. Obviously, it was at Churchill Downs, but has gone to 2 turns, handled it fine, won by open lengths in that race, length and 3/4 there. So, I like him here to save some ground. And if unfortunately, I thought maybe the 9 was going to run in here, and maybe we'd get a little bit of pace here. But if the 5 kind of gets loose, then maybe that's going to be it's going to be tough for anyone to make any ground. But I think if someone is going to kind of close into something, I like the 8 tracking as my top pick, but I think the one Incredible could be one that might be able to spring a little bit of an upset. I mean, 9-2 on the morning line is not exactly a huge price, but I did like him coming into this race. Anything else here on this one? No. All right. Well, that's going to move us over to Santa Anita. We got 3 races here at Santa Anita to finish up this pick 6. The San Pasquale ended up not getting added to part of this sequence, but we are going to start with a stakes race, which is it is the grade 3 megahertz. For some reason I thought megahertz was a listed stake, but the grade 3 megahertz here, we're going to be going a mile here on the turf. Fillies and mares, 4-year-old and up, 100K up for grabs here. I actually landed on a bit of a price in here at 6-1 as my top pick. I landed on My Perfect Wave in here. Jaramillo has just been winning everything, man. It's just shades of Barrios going west, where he's just getting on the turf and he's just winning. And obviously when he came over, either he's got the greatest agent known to man, or people, or all the top turf guys knew that he could ride, because he's riding for everybody out there already. So, this is the horse that was ridden previously by Frezu and Rispoli. Jaramillo's here, and this is the horse that is going to want to kind of come from off the pace. Has been able to close both at Del Mar and here at Santa Anita. That last race, he came from pretty far back in that race to come up and win. On time form, I think needs to take a little step forward in order to run with the best that some of these other horses run. But I really like him in this spot. I think if I was going to maybe try and get cute a little bit in the sequence, this might be a spot where maybe I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to take the one. I have 2 other horses as Bs, but I'll let you guys kind of go and talk about other horses. So, Mark, where did you land here?
Landed on the same exact horse you did, Josh. Actually, I thought My Perfect Wave was amazingly interesting in here. At least with My Perfect Wave, this is a horse that likes to win. Your morning line favorite, Public Assembly, just absolutely hates to win, and hasn't since in about a year. Horse that loves to sort of run with her friends and kind of clunk up and hit the board. But at least with My Perfect Wave, you have a horse that that does like to get it done. And I thought with Jaramillo, taking the mount, I saw the exact same thing you did, Josh. It should get kind of the right pace set up, the right kind of a trip. Horse is fast enough on paper. I thought My Perfect Wave was the horse to beat in here. So I'm hoping somebody else in here has a better opinion than I do, because it's awfully boring if Josh and I are always agreeing.
Caleb.
Yeah, I do like My Perfect Wave, but she's not my top pick in here. My top pick is actually another horse who it's about the same price, I think. That's the number 3, Princesa Moche. This is a horse who has really gotten a lot better after getting a few starts under her belt here in America. Didn't do a ton of running in her first 2 starts, but then rattled off 2 wins, one going down the hill here at Santa Anita, and then one going a mile at Del Mar, posting a pretty good number, speed figure out of that race. And then last time out, she gave Queen Maxima everything she could handle. And Queen Maxima's arguably the best turf sprinter that we have here in the country right now, or certainly the best, female turf sprinter. So to me, I thought that was a fantastic race. She has proven she can get a mile by that race 2 back, and she's proven that she's not some one-dimensional need to lead type, where she was able to sit 6 lengths off of a runaway leader 2 back and then kind of close in. I don't see a ton of speed in here. I know time form says this is a fast pace. I don't know that I see it. I think a horse like maybe the 5 Going Lucky is your probable leader in here. But, beyond that, I guess the 6 has flashed some speed last out, but that clearly has not worked for her in those last 2 starts. I'm not sure what the plan is going to be today with, Victor up. But, for me, I want a horse that's going to be somewhat forward. And I think Princess Moche just kind of fits this race. Gets a pretty hot jock up. And is one who's 3 for 7 going this mile despite being campaigned primarily shorter, since coming over here. So for me, I like Princess Moche. I have nothing against My Perfect Wave at all. I think she's a great pick in this race. Probably my second choice in here, but I'm just going a different direction on top.
Mark, I want you to try and pronounce the name of the jockey who last rode this horse in Peru.
Wait, which horse? On the 6?
The 3.
God,
okay.
no, we're not doing this, Josh. That's a lot of letters that
don't go together normally. Yeah.
No, they don't. No.
I think it's Ila Choque. Ila Choque.
Ila Choque? Okay.
Ila Choque, I think it's probably.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep, exactly. Matt.
YL. Wow. Okay, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, I saw, I think, a very similar race to what you guys saw. Do not like the number 2 Public Assembly here, either, to Mark's point about just not wanting to get her picture taken, is kind of the type that I'm just going to be out on every time. I do like the number 1 quite a bit from a standpoint of playing this as a pick 6 sequence. That horse is absolutely going to be on my ticket. Very much so like this one for a lot of the same reasons that you all have already mentioned, so I will not belabor those points. I will say that the 2 horses that I really like in here as well are the 2 Jonathan Thomas runners, the 4 and the 5, Will Then and Going Lucky. And it's interesting with Will Then because you could say, well, isn't this just kind of a Public Assembly part 2 a little bit, not liking to get her picture taken and things like that? It's like, I think that's maybe misreading the past performances a little bit where they really stretched her out. And I'm not sure that's her game because if you look when she runs a mile, she likes to get her picture taken. So I think cutting back to the mile distance makes a lot of sense for her in this spot. You're getting a little bit of a better price in terms of not being the favorite in this race. And, we'll see what she ends up being at post time, but, at least kind of fading the 2 in this regard. But Jonathan Thomas does such a good job conditioning his horses and just is just such a rock solid, consistent trainer. Mike Smith aboard. And this is a horse, to Caleb's point, I don't know how much speed there is, but this is a horse that can be tactical and can be, a few lengths off the pace and can get first run at the leaders and not let anybody out of their sight. And then I think the 5, to Caleb's point, I would not be shocked if this horse does go straight to the lead. And very similar trajectory in some ways to My Perfect Wave in terms of a very lightly raced horse, but a little bit of a layoff at one point. Change barns here. Thomas puts the horse on the turf and really perked up in that first effort. 3 for 4 winning, so the horse likes to win. I know it would be a big step up, but I think it's 6-1. You're getting at least an honest price on it. So those are the other 2 horses that I wanted to mention who I think are pretty significant players and will be on my Sunset Pick 6 ticket in this sequence.
Yeah, I have both of them written down kind of as B players, and for me, Matt. So I agree with you. My kind of position is if we can beat Public Assembly, I'm just trying to be right if I get around if I get around her. So
yep.
Yeah, like I had a hard time with Public Assembly just because, right, if you believe the numbers, right, this is the fastest horse in the field, but the horse just hates winning, right? You're going back to the Royal Heroine in April where this horse won. Now, granted, maybe this is a horse that just really likes Santa Anita and has had 2 off races because, the Gamely and the Frankel are both a little bit longer and you're going back to, the other Santa Anita races and maybe it looks a little better, but I don't know. I originally wrote this horse down as a B, but this is like the most like absolutely Mark Capitan defensive B that would possibly ever happen. The only other horse that I actually did kind of like a little bit was the 7 Vibes. And this was basically, I was looking at the, going back to the race 2 back where, the horse kind of closed in a little bit on, sat off the pace and, kind of sat up close. And there's only 1 blue fraction in there, but that race actually got adjusted up to a 113. So it's got a couple of those kinds of figures. Seems to have, I don't know. had 2 wins, and then I think kind of went the wrong way that last time at Del Mar, coming in here off the layoff. But JJ gets back aboard, and JJ was the last horse to ride this one to a victory. He's, as usual, off to a really good start at Santa Anita. So I just thought the fact that JJ was getting back aboard for this horse is probably a good sign. So I like vibes here a little bit. I have that one definitely in as a B, but my top pick's going to be my Perfect Wave in here. Anything else in this race? All right, we move on to race 8 here at Santa Anita. We're here at leg 5, the Sunset Pick 6.5 furlongs on the main track. 4-year-olds and up, optional claimer, 50,000 N1X. As our friend Chase Sessom says, I ain't reading all those conditions. But Matt, I'll let you go first here. Where did you land here?
Yeah, I wish I had something more creative, and I look forward to hearing you guys probably have something more creative. But I will just say, Cornucopian was so ready to win the Malibu by about 6 lengths. It was very obvious. This horse was just going to blow that field out, and they were going to get him as grade 1 and then probably retire him, to be fair. But circling back to our initial conversation, I think they obviously had to do some readjusting. I understand there are questions. This horse hasn't run since that very lackluster allowance race at Aqueduct that I was standing in I remember it was a rather cold day and standing on the rail because I thought, oh, this will be fun. I'll get a video of Cornucopian winning at Aqueduct. And then the horse did not win at Aqueduct. And so that was, I was cold and disappointed. And I would just walk back inside to the sounds of one person talking to me. Anyway, I just think Cornucopian is the best horse in this race. Bob Bapford, blinkers off, is a phenomenal angle in these sorts of spots. And I just think this horse was so cranked to win the Malibu. And they've had to obviously adjust course a little bit. I think that's the only reason maybe you didn't see this horse in something like the Pegasus or some of these other big races. They just wanted to get a race in him. Now they're going to get this race in him. But for me, he was just too hard to get around. He's a chalky single, but he's going to be my second single in the sequence. So I can spread a little bit more in some of these other legs. But that's ultimately where I went as my top selection.
Caleb, please save us.
Yes. So let me tell you a story, right? I remember watching the Arkansas Derby, and as I am, often want to do, we streamed the Derby, and I just trashed this horse's character. He's a maiden. He can't win this. He's overbet. And he went out there and ran the most incredible 4th place finish I've ever seen. I mean, to duel through those fractions and to, not completely just spit the bit and quit. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to survive the stream because he didn't win. But I was wrong about this horse. He is incredibly talented. And then he came back at Aqueduct for whatever reason. I don't even know why he shows up there in a 3-horse field and he gets beat, and almost runs last. Yeah. And that wasn't a terrible field, but it's a 3-horse field and he was 1 to 500 to beat that field. That was when he officially made the dead to me list. So for me, this horse is not going to be 6 to 5. He's going to be 2 to 5 in this race. Yeah. And he is not a horse that I need. And the reason I don't think I need him is because I don't think he can get in front of the 7, Simple Song, who is extremely fast. I don't know if this horse can win. I don't know if he's good enough to carry his speed against this. It's an optional 50, so let's not pretend this is a grade 1, but it's a pretty good field. I mean, there's a lot of horses in here that are, stakes placed or have really done some pretty impressive running. So to me, Simple Song is so fast. I don't know that Cornucopian coming out of those routes gets in front of him. And, if he does, just, coming off the huge layoff and then, missing the Malibu and coming in here, it just too many questions for me at a very short price. I was about to be a believer, and then he went to Aqueduct and lost in 3-horse field, and I can't get past it at this spot at this price. So for me, I won't be surprised if he wins by 6, but I'm out on Cornucopian. Instead, I landed on 2 horses, trying to bookend the race essentially. I am going to use the number 7 Simple Song simply because of how quick he is. He will be in front turning for, or at least going into the turn, depending what the tactics are. Can he hold off their closers after dueling with Cornucopian or other the speeds in here? I don't know, but he's very fast. So I am going to have him on a ticket. And then the other horse is going to be the one that, probably sees them all up the backstretch. That's number 2 Red Flag, who, is just an ultra consistent runner. Always kind of shows up with a good effort. Races are, a little better than they appear if you kind of look at his races where he's been on Lasix. If you kind of draw a line through the ones where he's off Lasix, then his record all of a sudden looks quite a bit better. He's been keeping much better company as well. I mean, when he finally dropped into an N1X for 50,000 last time, in for the tag because he's cleared this condition. And he won pretty comfortably. I think this is a realistic placement for Jeff Mullins running him back in this spot. The 8-year-old gelding probably isn't a stakes horse at this point of his career, but I do think that he found a good spot here. And, for me, I'll take my chances with the horse in front and the horse in the back and hope that, regardless of how the pace sets up, one of them can get there.
So Stephen Fox, and we often make fun of Josh for not handicap for as long as us. Caleb has and still wants closers at SA and GP. I have I can't believe I'm going to tell you guys this because this is probably the funniest thing that I've ever realized live on stream. Caleb, I've been betting Madaket Road off of Cornucopian's effort. I got the horses mixed up.
You cannot be serious.
I'm dead serious. I thought Madaket Road was Cornucopian, and since Cornucopian's disappeared, I keep on betting Madaket Road because I thought it was the Rebel, not the Arkansas Derby, that was that horse that just sat those insane fractions and held on. I've been betting the wrong horse for 6 months. I saved so much money by that horse scratching.
Oh my God.
Look at when I tell people that I literally need the form right in front of me to handicap, I just have such an awful memory for horses. I just, it's always one of the things when I would talk with Tommy Massis, it was always incredible to me that you could talk to him and he would tell you, oh yeah, that horse, it would just be some claimer horse. And he would tell you the last 3 times he ran, he'd tell you how he finished, and he just had that memory for it. And I'm like, I can't keep 2 Baffert horses' names straight.
It's okay. I can see. I mean, the names are very similar. I can see how you get that mixed up.
I don't know. Well, I mean, half of Baffert's barn got scratched, got retired. So I mean, I don't know. Next man up, I guess. So in that case, I'm actually going to be using the other Baffert in this spot, the 3 March of Time.
Wait, don't you have to be on Cornucopian in that case?
I mean,
No. Doesn't he have to be?
I have to be. But I just realized this now.
This is Josh. Josh, how are you not singling Simple Song in here? Simple Song's the most Josh horse that ever did Josh horse.
I'm using 2 horses. I'm using the 7 Simple Song. I mean, give me all the speed. And I mean, yeah, apparently I thought Cornucopian was Madaket Road, and Madaket Road was Cornucopian this whole time. Yeah, I actually kind of like the other Baffert a little bit in this spot. Mike Smith's getting the board here. Obviously, we're coming off of a very, very long layoff here in this spot, but I don't know, man. I just hate to see this backwards pattern, but I get what you're saying. I mean, maybe this is just the quintessential. I mean, this horse has been a sprinter all along, right? And cutting back here to the 6.5 on the main track, is probably going to be for the best for Cornucopian. But at this point, I've already put the A button here next to March of Time and the 7, so I will not be going back whether or not I thought Madaket Road was the fastest horse I'd ever seen in a race. But yeah, that's rough, man. I can't believe I'm just I'm rethinking my last 6 months of betting now. That's just rough.
Just for that one reason, huh?
Yeah, just that one, right? That's been the problem.
That's the reason. That's the problem.
See, all your problems are solved now. You're gonna be,
It's like you know that scene in Happy Gilmore where they're trying to read the green, and he's like, oh, it breaks to the left, and he's like, oh, it's because you're not wearing a shoe. You know, that's kind of how I feel. Like I just haven't been wearing a shoe this whole time.
Yeah,
maybe
that's a good
maybe now that I
analogy.
got the shoe on. But yeah, I mean, I guess if Cornucopian runs back to that sprint race, I mean, it's you know, it's good night for everybody else. But you know, I'm gonna bet on the fact that this horse needs a race. I'll go with the 7. And I mean, I picked the other Baffert because I figured Baffert's got to win here, and Mike Smith gets aboard. You know, I actually kind of like the work pattern for this horse coming in here with the 6 furlong and then cutting back to that that 5 furlong bullet. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. That just blew my mind there. Anything else on this race?
Did Mark even go?
Mark.
Nope, hadn't gone. I basically don't exist at this point, Caleb. It honestly, and then me not existing, Caleb and I I'm very concerned at how much Caleb and I saw this entire sequence the same, because we saw this race identically the same. I want no part of Cornucopian. That horse is a fraud. That you know, Aqueduct race is inexcusable. And I think to me I have the same issue with March of Time. Like, I don't understand why both of those horses come back in this spot. Why are they here? It just feels really wrong, and it feels like Baffert's desperate to figure out what both of them are, and he just has no idea. I think there's just so many question marks that I don't know. I just can't explain it. So I end up in the same 2 horses that Caleb did. The 7-horse Simple Song, who is the speed of the speed, and I know also the 2-horse Red Flag. And you know, I think some people are going to see Tiago, and you're going to get some prices there. He's been riding phenomenal, and he's been picking up a lot of his Rispoli mounts, and he's getting a lot of really, really live mounts. So if I can get 6 to 1 on Red Flag, I am all about it. But yeah, I think those are the 2 horses I want. I will let the Bafferts just beat me, and I'm completely fine with that. Plan how it plays out.
Anything else on this race? All right. The payoff leg here, race 9, 6.5 furlongs. I do not have this race down the hill. This looks like just a regular old 6.5 furlong sprint. So I'm just making sure no one else is seeing different. I know sometimes they're tricky on that. So 3-year-old fillies, maiden special weight, 70K. Mark, take us out. How we closing this out?
Yeah, you know, really fun race. You know, as maiden races go, a lot of ways you can go here, and you know, obviously the morning line favorite I think here is pretty logical in the 11-horse counterbalance. You know, the horse is, you know, beginning a little faster every race. Probably gets back to the right kind of a distance here, and seems the horse that kind of is trending in the right direction. You know, I don't necessarily love the horse. I don't hate the horse either. Can Counterbalance win? Sure. Is Counterbalance the most interesting player in here? No, for me at least. There's a lot of other ways you could go in here that are a lot more fun. And so I think I'm prone to let somebody like a Counterbalance beat me, even though on paper, you know, getting first time Lasix, that is the horse to beat. I think one of the horses that I'm most interested in is the 1-horse Silky Sevi, I guess we're calling it, the Phil D'Amato Euro shipper. D'Amato's barn has been very, very good with these European shippers. We've talked about Hermio winning everything. It's not tied down. And I think the 1-horse here, pretty interesting player in this spot, you know, at 4 to 1. And I'm hoping that price holds. One of these Euros getting first time Lasix for a barn that does really well with those types of angles. So a horse that I think is a really logical player. But my top choice is actually the first time starter in here, the 2, Novita Dominga. You're getting Hector Barrios up for Sadler at 8 to 1. It's a 525,000 purchase from a sire who's 17% debut. The dam was 4 of 16, all on turf, and she broke her maiden with a dazzling debut on turf. Barn is 5 of the last 11 when they put Hector Barrios up on first time turf starters. So a lot of connections, a lot of angles to really kind of like in this one. If I get anywhere near 8 to 1, I will be tickled. And I think this one's probably loaded. And if I need to get a little cute and I needed to find a single late in this card, I get pretty aggressive around this too in this spot.
So apparently we just got to read the closer looks to understand where Mark is going to go.
I mean, basically, I just read the closer looks, and that's how I figure out I got horses, you know? Yeah.
Mark, you're gonna hate this, but I'm basically on the same horse as you are.
Oh, damn it.
I got the one. I had a spread here because I had a hard time. I felt like it was really hard to split between these horses. My top pick is the one, Silky Save. You know, we've already talked about Jaramillo. You already mentioned, you know, all the stats going for Phil D'Amato's way on this horse. The first time starter, the 2 makes a ton of sense. 24% for John Sadler, first time starter. 21% first time turf. Hector getting the board is always a good sign. And yeah, the work pattern's been steady for a long time there. So I do like the 2. The other first time starter I like is the 8, Mo Sasha here. JJ, you know, off to that 20% start, and you know, you're getting a horse that, you know, it was well thought of at the auction ring. You know, sold for $400,000 here, and you know, this is a Mike McCarthy and JJ. You know, they're 20% basically over the last year when JJ rides for Mike McCarthy. So I just think that you know, Constitution, good win early pedigree. So I like the 8 Mo Sasha in here, and then the 11 Counterbalance. Just Counterbalance kind of seems like the barometer a little bit in here. It's like, all right, like this is the steady horse. This is the horse that, you know, on Bayer has basically been running the same figure. You know, has improved a little bit on time form, and looks the fastest on time form on the turf fig. So really the only other horse I think on time form that looks a little interesting would be the 10. And it's just, hey, are you going to take Bernardini on the bottom on a first time turf horse? But I decided to leave the 10 off. So I'm going to be 1, 2, 8, and 11 here. Matt, where did you land?
Yeah, we started off by agreeing on some things. We're going to finish by agreeing on some things. I absolutely love the 2 as my top choice. The closer looks personally convinced me of it, and so I just stopped handicapping after that. But that was no. I think the 8 to 1 probably no. By the way, to be clear, there was Josh made a document, and in it said Mark catch strays. And, you know, Mark hasn't caught a lot of strays yet.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That's
so
true.
I
That's
needed
true.
to come
Yeah.
through as the guest. And, you know, aside from vamping, I had to throw some strays out there at Mark. No, listen, I think everything Mark said is absolutely right. And I do love this horse's pedigree. And I just up and down on the female side, not this time. What a great sire. And, you know, the sales price kind of just says it all. An incredible work pattern that's been going on for a while, plenty of conditioning. 8 to 1 you probably won't get, but I do like that horse quite a bit. The one maybe is a little bit more defensive. Like all the connections make sense, and yes, I still am sometimes skeptical of first time starters in North America, and we'll see. The inside rail going on the 6.5 flat is always a little bit of a question mark too, in terms of how does the horse break. And that's always, you know, going into the gates is a little bit different overseas than it is here in the United States. So I'm just always curious about how turf horses break first time out in North America. But agreed on the 11 being kind of the barometer and maybe the defensive play in this race on the outside, but certainly makes plenty of sense. And then Josh, again, agreed on the 8, Mo Sasha. I think that's a great pick. And, you know, again, you go back 2 generations there. The second dam was a multiple-time group stage winner and a multiple-time stakes winner overseas on the turf. So plenty of pedigree to suggest first out success and turf success there on the Mo Sasha. So I very much so like the way that this one sets up for us at the end. But I agree with you, a little bit more spready, going at least 3-4 deep here. And that's part of the reason why I got a little not creative, but it's one of the reasons why with these kind of $1 pick 6 minimum sequences, a lot of times I like to try to find 2 singles so that I can then spread in some of these other legs, go 3-4 deep and not feel so constrained by a budget and be able to put together a $48 ticket, a $54 ticket, something along those lines. That's not too much. So anyway, but yeah, close it out with basically 1, 2, 8, 11, just like you.
Caleb.
Yeah, I was about to be so impressed with Mark's knowledge in the 2 until I realized he was just reading the closer look report. I agree with you guys in principle. I think the 1 and 2 are horses that are going to be A's on my ticket. I don't need to get any more detail on them. I'm probably out on the 11. In races like this, I think I always ask myself, do I want to take kind of the known quantity that is probably average, or do I want to take a shot on a horse that I think can move forward? And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be in the second camp. With that being said, the only horse that well, maybe 2 horses, but the one horse that I am using as an A is the number 5, Soul Sister. This is a horse who ran pretty well on her 2 turf races. I mean, she was off slow and then split the field in her debut. And then but really the race that kind of drew me in more was her first time going long back in November at Del Mar. She broke from the 11 post, which is always difficult at Del Mar. She was 3 wide the entire race, around both turns, made a middle move to actually take the lead, turning for home. And that was a race that completely fell apart. Closers just dominated that race. And she held on pretty respectably for a horse that made that move that was probably a bit premature. A lot of the runners out of that race have come to significantly improve their next out speed figure on time form. Time form does acknowledge that race was full of first-time starters, as you'll see by like the F designation there. But for me, I think there's just a lot of horses that have run a lot better out of that race. So I don't know that 76 is truly representative of what she did that day. I would say it's probably more like a low 80s, which puts her more on par with Counterbalance. And, arguably you're getting a change to a hotter jockey who's had some success here. And these are low profile connections. You're not going to, probably get a short price on this horse. But, I just thought she ran a much better race than it looked 2 back. I don't care about the dirt race. It's not what she wants to do. And, she's one that I think will be a big number in a race that's honestly pretty wide open that I want to make sure I have coverage to. So for me, I do like Soul Sister, the number 5, in addition to the horses that y'all have mentioned, the number 1 and the number 2.
You a big Train fan?
They're fine. Hey, Soul Sister. Yeah. The other horse, I guess I'll touch on in less details, the number 12. I don't know if this horse has any ability, but it's a second-time starter for a barn that doesn't often win first time out. The horse did take some money on that day. Has exited that race with a couple of pretty impressive works. Adds Lasix here. The top jock for the barn sticks, and there is some turf pedigree here. This is a barn that has had some success. Second time out, switching surface. So for me, I would want a big number on this horse. The talent might not just be there, but she is one that I would throw in if you're going to spread pretty deep, because it's a pretty open race again. And I'm looking for horses that can step forward and kind of surpass the bar that the 11 Counterbalance is set here. And Lirios is one that I think might fit the bill.
Yeah, I like Lirios to fit in here. So
I think one other thing that'll be interesting about Counterbalance is all 3 races have been at Del Mar. And I think anybody who plays California knows that some horses like one, some horses like the other. Some might like both. But it'll be interesting to see whether or not Counterbalance either really likes Santa Anita or maybe really dislikes Santa Anita. It could go either way there. And obviously finding out at a shorter price might not be your cup of tea, and that's totally understandable. But I think that's something to always keep in mind, particularly when you're looking at these maidens who might just have runs over one of those Southern California tracks, but not both, is, well, maybe something changes at Santa Anita as opposed to Del Mar. So just something to keep in mind for people who maybe don't play California quite as often.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes left, and I did want to touch on one other race because I am a huge proponent of this bet. And we've already talked about 2 of the races that make up this bet. But the all-turf pick 3 at Santa Anita actually starts in race 5 here. So quick, Mark, I know you've handicapped the entire card for like 3 days already. So why don't you give me a couple quick hits here on what you liked in race 5?
Yeah, and I think race 5 is, a fun race. It should be quite a bit of pace, and a race that I think sets up somebody from a little bit more off the pace. I thought the 2 horse Just a Kiss kind of, was a horse that really fit that bill really well. I thought that last ride by Ayuso was super heady. So I thought the 2, was super interesting in here, and the other horse I thought was a little interesting in here is the 7 horse Apple Pie. Another horse that kind of sit a little off the pace, and have that turn of foot late, and gets Hector Barrios, who's as we've already noted, pretty good on the green stuff. So I thought the 2 and the 7 were the horses I was most interested in here.
Matt, what'd you like here?
7 was my top pick. I thought I was going to be creative here with the 10-1 top pick choice, but Mark beat me to it. So yeah, I love this for all the reasons Mark pointed out, and I think the stretch out's going to be really beneficial for this one. Yep. And I agree about the pace scenario. So I think you see a big step forward, and I love horses like this in general. It's a profile of a lightly raced horse that's not even getting anywhere close to running its best race. I think you're going to see a perk up on buyer. Really like that one a lot, but I do think this is a race that, from a sequential standpoint, while I love the 7, I do think you could probably throw a couple of other horses into this, and I think the 3 was a little bit interesting as well. And obviously, your 5 is your favorite, but again, there's going to be a lot of speed in this race, and I wouldn't be shocked if that 5 maybe faded a little bit at the end.
Yeah, I was 3, 4, 5 here. I think I like the 4 probably the best in this spot. Surprise, Jaramillo again. I think the tough thing with the 4 is this is something that we've talked about with a lot of these other horses, right? Figures look good, but horse hasn't won in quite some time. We're going back to August of 2024 where we have a win. But the horse has improved, and the horse has been running good time form figures. So the question is just, can the horse, figure it out and, kind of actually cross the line first here. But this is a horse that's kind of been bouncing between open and Calbreds. And, form-wise seems to, I think, fit a little bit better with the Calbred. So I think maybe just getting a little bit easier of a group here, I think might help with the 4. The 3 and the 5, I'm afraid that maybe they kind of, hamper each other a little bit, especially with the presence of the 9. I think maybe there's a chance that there's a lot of speed, but if for some reason the track is just super fast, I think there's a chance that either one of the 3 or the 5 can maybe hang on in the front. I actually really like the 3, and like honestly, if the 9 wasn't in, I would be even higher. I think on the 3, just looks like a horse that kind of maybe figured it out last time. They got the horse on the lead and got a little brave and finished 3rd by a neck. Just kind of got caught there at the end. So I thought that was a pretty nice race. And obviously the 5 is going to be your favorite here. JJ stays aboard. I think turf is what this horse wants. But the horse has been able to win some Calbred races on the dirt as well. But obviously won an open starter allowance as a 3-year or last year as a 4-year-old. So I think does have a ton of ability and probably makes sense as a favorite in here. So. Caleb, anything you'd like in this race?
I guess I'll keep it on the shorter side. I think the 7's too slow and doesn't have the pedigree to stretch out. I think the 4 is a loser. I don't see the speed that y'all do. I think the 5 is a very likely winner of this race. I'm not going to get crazy in here. I will use the 5 prominently. And I do agree with Mark on the 2. Just a Kiss, I think, is probably my top play in here, given the value that I think this horse offers. Comes out of a very live key race. And, does, go out for a barn that does fantastic off these kind of layoffs. So for me, I'll be 2-5, and I don't know that I have to go much deeper.
I think next week when I type up these notes, I'm not going to put Mark Catches Astray. I'm going to put Agree with Mark, because apparently it's fucking opposite day over here. And we're just everyone's just like, oh well, I agree with Mark. I agree with everything Mark said. Mark, you and I are on all the same horses. Like, It's
Well, to be fair, I mean, I came into this wondering like how Mark was going to handicap Santa Anita now that Rispoli's not actually riding. I was very curious how who's actually going to pick horses, but
That is true. I mean,
apparently he just picked Hector instead. So
yeah, exactly.
Matt, there's a very important question asked by one of our people in the chat, Stephen Fox, asking, what is your view of the new Naked Gun movie?
I've not seen it, and so I don't have an opinion in that regard. I don't like the fact that they're remaking movies that I remember when I was a kid. It makes me feel very old. And I was like, do we really need to remake The Naked Gun? Wasn't it pretty like iconic the first time around? But yeah, but I do. I mean, I love The Naked Guns. I mean, like those were so funny. I remember watching those all the time as a kid and just like thinking, yeah, Leslie Nielsen was like the funniest person in the world. And then because I watched those first and then I saw like Airplane. And so like Naked Gun was my first time into seeing Leslie Nielsen. And then my dad's like, oh, you should watch this other movie that like kind of came before. And like that just deadpan slapstick just absolutely cracks me up. So love the movie. Have not seen the new one though.
Yeah, it's funny, right? They don't make movies like that anymore. Like,
No,
there's a reason.
You think about like who's the guy who did like Spinal Tap, right? They
the
did
Christopher Guest,
Tap,
the Christopher Guest movies, the mockumentaries, the Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman.
Yeah.
Literally, I could start. You could keep this going, and I could just go line for line for Best in Show for the next 2.5 hours.
Best in Show is phenomenal.
One of the best movies ever made. I'm sorry.
Yeah, agreed.
Amazing.
Uncle Sully saying Andy Serling is old. Matthew DeSantis, not so much.
not so fast.
45 going on 75. I was as an only child raised by two parents who loved the 50s and 60s. Yeah, all my references as a kid were way dated. And I was like, this is honest to God a true story. I did not know who Kurt Cobain was until sadly his life was over. When I was in school, I had no idea about Nirvana or anything like that. And then I saw this girl crying in school one day and I said, what's happened? And she told me about his very untimely death. And I go, I don't know who that is, but I'm really sorry. And so, so I was just like listening to Motown and the Rat Pack. And so that's where I live as a 45-year-old man now.
This was fun, guys. I always like that. I love these types of sequences. I love, like I said, the bigger, low takeout type bets, the all turf pick threes and things like that. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter, obviously, at the handle @FailedToMenace. You can find all of our content on NYRA Bets YouTube, and as well as on the NYRA Bets X page at NYRA Bets. So, got a lot of content. Obviously on Gulfstream and on Santa Anita, as they're the two of the tracks that are running this weekend. But I am going to be joined by my lovely NYRA colleague, Acacia Clement, tomorrow, as we're going to be previewing a couple of the stakes races taking place Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. So we'll be covering that as well. So, and one of these days we're going to run in New York again. And when we do, it'll be a glorious day.
And Mark, Caleb, what do you guys got going on this weekend? Mark, you buying in the FloCal?
Already bought into FloCal and putting together plays for that, trying to figure out how I'm going to approach the sequences. Tough sequences all the way around, but it should be some good stuff. And I will be skiing this weekend. So, my normal weekend jam, I will be kind of playing FloCal as a bit of a pick and pray, but that's always fun.
Caleb, what do you got going on this weekend?
Nothing too crazy planned. I'll be, betting a little bit, watching the races, doing some stuff around the house, but nothing crazy.
Yep, and I we got a wine tasting and I got board game night on Saturday. So we'll I will say obviously there's no NYRA contest this weekend, but the best finish I've ever had in one of the NYRA contests was actually when I was at a wine tasting, and I was firing, and I think I finished second or third with it was like $700 or $800.
Yeah.
And took home I think it might have just been at the time there was only like first and second page or something like that, and I think I ended up getting like a buy into the next week or something like that, but it was it was at a wine tasting, and then Mark's like, maybe you just gotta drink wine all the time when you bet horses, but
not wrong.
It's like bowling. Like there's a certain amount of like inebriation where you loosen up and you get good, and then you
makes you better,
and then
there's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Same thing with golf.
Yeah.
At least for me, it's like 2.5 beers, and that buzz right there at 2.5. You hit 3, and it's just downhill. But the thing is that once that buzz starts to kind of come off, like you gotta I don't know. There's it's just a cliff. It's a cliff. You gotta navigate it. But yeah, we'll have. I think we'll have an episode of "You've Got to Be Shot Tinning Me" on Friday. I actually haven't talked to Matt yet, so we're gonna double check, make sure that's coming out this week. But obviously, Drinking Champagne came out. We took a look at the Coast to Coast for tomorrow. Check that out, and then we'll be live. I think we'll be live next Thursday. Actually, we'll have to talk about that internally because it'll be my my going away party at work. So we're going out
Stream
to
it,
happy
live stream
hour.
it.
You want to
Yeah.
live stream that? Oh god.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But it'll be my last day, or last happy hour, at least at work on that day. So I will be, busy that night. But we'll figure something out. I'll either we'll move to Friday, or we'll have we'll give Mark the keys and see what happens. Yep, check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. Check out Matthew at Failed to Menace at NYRA Bets. Check out our friends at drf.com. Have a good weekend, guys. Let's make some money.